Also wanted to talk about Michelle Obama and her lack of a headscarf in Saudi Arabia yesterday. I find this fascinating, and there are some people who are pointing out that back in 2010, when she went to Malaysia, which is a majority Muslim country, she did wear a headscarf in deference to the folks there. Whereas when she went to Saudi Arabia, not only did she not wear a headscarf, she didn't wear black. Now, there's a kind of a backstory here with regard to my perspective on this. Back in 1998 or 1999, it was one of those 2 years, as the 20th century was coming to a close, Louise and I were living in Montpelier, Vermont. And one day, my fax machine rang and then started spitting out pages. Spit out this, it was 2 or 3 pages. And it was on the letterhead of the Vatican, of the office of the Pope. At that time, it was Pope John Paul II. And it said, you are invited to a concert at Castle Gandolfo to be the guest of the Pope and to a private audience with the Pope after the concert. And I'm looking at this thing going, I'm being punked, right? This is like, the people who called Scott Walker and said, hi, I'm David Koch. And Scott Walker's like, thank you so much. I just want to be president. I want to be governor. I'm like, please, But I didn't call up the Vatican and say, wonderful, please, please. I didn't quite know what to make of it. But I did reply, are you really the Vatican, sort of a reply. And what provoked this? And it turned out that, I had written a book called The Prophet's Way, which is still in print. It's sort of it's the only autobiography book that I've ever written. It tells a piece of the story of my life, which has to do with with Louise and I meeting when we were living in Michigan and running an ad agency, and we met this guy in Germany, Gottfried Mueller, who ran a series of communities for abused kids and refugee centers around the world. And we were so blown away by what he did that we sold our business. We moved to New Hampshire. We bought 160 acres of land on a 2,000-acre lake, and over the course of a couple of years built 3 houses and a school. And it's Hunter School. But in that book, I tell the story of Gottfried Mueller. Most of the book is about the story of my relationship with Gottfried Mueller, who just literally changed my life. The book is called The Prophet's Way. What I didn't know, and what I learned when I contacted the Vatican and then I contacted Herr Mueller, was that Herr Mueller had a woman who used to work with him back in the 50s when he was starting out. He's dead now. He died in his 90s back 6-7 years ago. But there was a woman who used to work with him back in the 50s who went on to marry a man who was a Protestant, who grew up with Karol Wojciech, who was then known as Pope John Paul II. They grew up together in Poland. They were best friends as kids, and they maintained that friendship throughout their lives. And they put together this annual concert in Castle Gandolfo, which is the kind of the Pope's summer palace up on the edge of this volcanic lake, this caldera, about, 2.5 hours north of Rome. And Herr Mueller had shared a copy of The Prophet's Way with her. She had shared it with her husband. He had shared it with the Pope, or at least told the Pope about it. The Pope said, well, let's invite this guy. Because it was all about, Protestant, Catholic, spirituality, stuff like that. The whole thing it was like going beyond Catholicism. So I replied saying, may I bring my wife? And they said, yes, but she can't meet the Pope. And then they sent like 10 or 12 pages of rules for Louise's clothing and behavior when she was in the presence of the Pope, if she was sitting next to me. She had to have her arms covered, her legs were covered, she could only show her ankles, she had to wear black, she had to have her head, it's just the whole thing. Right? It cost us a fortune at Macy's to dress Louise for the Pope. But we went, and the Pope was really cool because, you know, she had been told, no, you can't do this. And we, after the concert, we went in for the private audience with His Holiness, and he turns to Louise and sticks out his hand and shakes her hand and has a little conversation with her. But my point is, it's not just Muslims who have rules for how women have to dress. Catholics do, Orthodox Jews do. The thing that concerns me right now is that a lot of the, oh my God, Michelle Obama did not wear a headscarf. A lot of the criticism that's coming from the hard right of her for that is that she was being disrespectful of Islam. On the other hand, some of the support that's coming from the right is trashing Islam, right? This is feeding into Islamophobia. Now, I think what Michelle Obama did is spectacular. I have tremendous respect for her and her husband for pulling this thing off. And you can see her walking, you know, along, and the Saudis just ignoring her. You know, woman without headscarf. On the other hand, I think we also have to point out that just like, you know, with Bill Donahue and the Catholic League in the United States, there's a very toxic strain within Catholicism, although they are not killing people, cutting people's heads off, and blowing up buildings. Now, they were 30 years ago with the Irish Republican Army. They weren't cutting people's heads off, but they were killing people pretty aggressively. They tried to kill Maggie Thatcher, and one of the things that I would say was good about Maggie Thatcher's prime ministership is that she didn't cower the way Dick Cheney did after 9/11. She didn't lock down her country. She didn't freak out. She didn't create a national security. She didn't declare war on the Catholics. She got through it. And the IRA eventually got absorbed into the political milieu of Ireland and the United Kingdom. But there is this strain of Salafism in Islam. And hopefully the president, in interacting with the Saudis, who are the source of most of that Salafism and the Wahhabism, hopefully the president, in interacting with them, and hopefully Michelle Obama showing up without a headscarf, is the beginning of a crack in that.